I'm joined again by Mike Ralston, CEO of Blencowe Resources. We haven't chatted for a while, Mike. Thanks for joining me again.
Darren, thanks to have me, and it's good to be back.
So, Mike, you've put out a few RNSs since we last spoke. One of them was the raise for £1 million. What was the rationale for that raise?
Yeah, I think most of the listeners are aware that once Trump came into power in January, the DFC had a moratorium or hiatus in terms of funding, and that goes not just in terms of humanitarian, but also development funding, which is what our grant money was sitting under. So there was a 90-day freeze, and obviously we had a lot of DFS work underway, a lot of bills to be paid, and at that point, we didn't have the obviously the understanding of where it was going to go and the outcomes. So we felt it made a lot of sense to just put a bit of more money into the kitty, and obviously to make sure that we could keep all the momentum that we've got with the study, with the drilling and everything else that's going on. So we raised it. Obviously, good support from the market, and been very useful in terms of keeping up the momentum going forward.
So you mentioned the DFC there. What is the status of your relationship with them, and sort of the remaining grant funds? I think it's sort of $1.5 million.
Yeah, that's right. So the relationship is strong. I'm happy to say that we've been obviously talking to him a lot, and each of their customers or clients, as we are, was reviewed on a case-by-case basis. We are definitely one of the priorities, so we're right at the top of that list. And I'm happy to say that per the discussions that we have, we're back on track, which is great news. And we'll be expecting the remaining cash to come in imminently, which is obviously going to make a lot of difference for us going forward. And obviously, their relationship continues into the project implementation beyond that. So it's a very important cog in our wheel. It's been obviously a little bit of I guess, a challenging couple of months because, like everybody else in the world, we didn't know which way the Trump administration was going to go. But DFC seems to be one of the big winners in terms of what's happening over there. I think they're going to have enhanced capital to play with, and they, love the Orem Cross project, and they want to be involved, and they want to help us to bring it into production. So I think we're back on track, and it's looking good.
Okay. So in terms of the DFS itself then, what are the sort of bigger ticket items that are sort of still outstanding, if you like, to actually complete the DFS?
Well, if you recall, we are talking about a stage one production, which is smaller, which kicks us off. And obviously, one of the key components for that is getting all of the offtake to make sure that we can sell 10,000 tons that we would be proposing to produce and sell under that phase one scenario. And we are right up there at that point right now. We're actually probably over that, but we're starting to play the players off against each other to get the best offtake relationships and make sure the ones that we want to pursue harder and obviously more valuable. So offtake is continuing, but I think we're right where we expected and wanted to be. Funding obviously continues because there's a process to make sure that we're going to get funded going through into project implementation, and in particular that stage one, where we're going to try and move into production as quickly as we can next year. So there's a lot of work going on in both offtake and funding. We've had some announcements have come out on both. I think we announced the AFC were obviously interested to be involved, and we certainly put out a few offtake announcements as well. In terms of the other work, there's obviously a drill program going on, and everyone's aware of what's going on because I think our COO, Ian Waring, has been sharing some recent videos on the drilling, both in terms of the existing deposits and the very exciting new Beehive deposit that we're drilling on now. And I think the market's been seeing some of those exceptional core that's coming out of those drill holes that we've been putting down in both the existing and the new deposits. I will note that Ian himself, our COO, has put significant investment of his own cash into the last capital raise. And I think that's a massive endorsement for the project, and obviously, his participation. So the drilling is very much underway. It's obviously we've been announcing to the market, and hopefully it'll be all concluded quite soon. And then we've got to move through into assays and obviously finally getting that new JORC resource out, and it all feeds into the DFS and obviously the modeling beyond that. So yeah, a lot's still happening. But obviously, if DFC funds are going to come and help us to conclude all of that, it's a huge situation. Together with the money that we raised recently, plus the DFC money coming in going forward to complete that grant funding, we're fully funded for the work programs that are underway. So that's fantastic, and it just gives us that ability to try and get this study completed as quickly as we can, but also obviously has to be done properly.
Yeah, and completion of those work programs results in the DFS, and then obviously you look at funding. I think you mentioned for the stage one production, if you like. Do you see that being something? Because I think the DFC had, if you like, first dibs on funding. It was mentioned in one of the
Yeah.
RNSs. Do you see that initial funding as like a hybrid situation with more than one party, or do you think the DFC would get mostly involved in that, or perhaps the AFC as well, or is it just a case of not knowing yet?
Yeah, I think the honest answer is we don't know yet, but we've got a lot of different parties in the mix. I think that the DFC probably won't be involved in the first stage for the simple reason that we want to get it underway very quickly, and
Mm,
their process will just take too long. But that's okay because I
mm.
want them to be comfortable. I want them to be involved in that larger scale ramp up thereafter. But we've got some other parties that we are talking to. AFC are definitely interested.
Mm.
But we are talking to other parties. We have become involved with some funding opportunities through into the UK, and
Okay.
hopefully we'll be announcing a UK off-taker in the near future, which gives us the ability to get UK government support. And that's going to be very, very critical, I think, in terms of where we go with stage one. So keep watching this space. There's definitely stuff happening there. In terms of some of the other things that are going on in the background, we haven't really talked about the Safe Loop project that's obviously happening in the background in terms of the developmental work on this Generation 3 lithium-ion battery. We've got some exceptional results coming through from that, and they're very, very keen on Blencowe, and in particular the Oram Cross project and the graphite quality that's really helping that project to succeed. So there's a lot going on there. And as we've talked about the drilling, there'll be results coming through there. But ultimately, it all feeds through into a model. Once the model's completed, we get the funding together and we start moving towards first production. So, yeah, it's been challenging. It's been obviously an interesting 6 months, I guess, for everybody in the world. And I'm not sure the roller coaster ride is yet finished.
Mhm.
But right now, where we are is obviously very positive, because DFC have shown us their support, and obviously we really do appreciate that, and obviously want to make sure that we utilize that in the best possible way.
Okay, and just to sort of close out then, in terms of timeline, I know you can't give exact timelines; it would be silly to do so. But assuming you get the DFS done in H2 of this year, do you envisage when would you sort of envisage first production could potentially come into play?
Yeah, it's all about completing that study as quickly
Yep,
as we can, and let's not lose sight of the fact that we've had to add in a complete additional section to that, which is all about the downstream
the
processing, which
SPG,
wasn't
yeah.
in the original study, and that's extremely important because at the end of the day, that's one of the rationales as to why Oram Cross can succeed commercially, whereas many of the other graphite projects around the world are not succeeding, because they're just trying to sell concentrate. So we've had to add that in. That's created its own challenges, and in particular in terms of timelines, because we're dealing with a partner there, and we have to work closely with them. But we are doing everything we can to complete as quickly as we can. And then obviously, once we've got a study that's finalized, we can take it out to the market and we can go and show these various different funding parties what it looks like. And with the various parties that I mentioned before, I'm confident that we can raise the money that we require for stage one production and bring it into, well, with a bit of luck, before the end of 2026. So by the end of next year, we'll have some production underway.
Okay, that's great. Well, thanks for the update, Mike, and I'll look forward to chatting to you again in the near future.
Great, Darren. Thank you very much, and nice to chat to you again.